All right, mate. One of the beautiful things about this is I get to hear some random and wacky stories. And Amanda said you got some cool ass stories to tell me.
I do. All the expectations, random life stories. I think she's on about the kind of people that I work with. That's what she's on about. I'm going to say
What?
mine is not wacky.
Oh, give over. Yeah. What do you do, mate?
I'm a psychotherapist, so I work in children's mental health.
Wow.
That's my bag.
How long you been in that?
Probably just over 10 years now. Yeah, so I went to uni at University of Central Lancashire when I was like straight out of college, went and did psychology. I did my master's in health psychology and then just kind of followed what I enjoyed. What do
Mm.
I love? What am I good at? And I just found that I gravitated towards like the younger generation and wanting to, I just felt like I could influence change more in that population. So I ended up getting like a volunteer job in CAMS, which is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services in the NHS, as a volunteer, just helping out. And then I was lucky enough to get an assistant psychologist job, which is like rocking horse poo. Like it just they never really come up. It's really competitive to get jobs in the NHS, especially training roles. So I was lucky to get that, and then went to do my CBT training, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. And qualified in that in 2020. So I've been sort of in this role for 3 years over in East Lancashire, based in Burnley Hospital, and I've just secured a senior therapy role that covers
Wow.
Blackburn as well now. So that's a nice challenge.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What
Yes.
is that like dealing with kids' mental health?
It depends what day you ask me. I guess it's in equal measure extremely rewarding, but also you have to invest a lot. And I think I kind of made a promise with myself that the day I become desensitized and stop caring about a child not wanting to be alive anymore was the day that I'm just going to stop doing my job, because it's really, because we work with complex and enduring mental health disorders in my specialist camps team. These are sort of moderate to major depressive episodes. You might get OCD, trauma, complex trauma, like right through the childhood. Um, we get all all sorts of stuff. Just children that have had really, really tough starts in life and genuinely just sometimes don't want to be here anymore. And to hear that from a child who could be as young as 10, because we work through from 10 to 18, you've got to have a stomach for it. It's just not, it's never easy to hear. But I'm learning that you just got to be a human. You can be book smart. I've got my degrees, I've got my masters, but most people just want a human on the other end to just be like, that sounds really tough. You know, and it's that life experience that people don't teach you and that you can't read out of a book that really hits home the most. Like, yeah, I get it. You know, you've really had to survive. You really had to. Every single day is a struggle. I get it. That hits more than trying to sort of do a manualized therapy approach, in my opinion. But it does have its place.
That's heavy, man. Young as 10.
Yeah, 10, yeah. Sometimes younger. We work in primary schools, but generally the children that come across to my caseload are about between 10 to 18. Yeah.
What is
Mm.
the what is the major epicenter of the problem? Is it a specific traumatic event? Is it like a genetic thing, or is it a complete mixed bag?
It depends what school of thought you come from. And I do wonder about this because what does trauma even mean? Like, I guess it's made me think about that as a question the more that I've done this job. Is you get some young people that have witnessed horrendous domestic violence, or they might have experienced horrendous physical violence from a parent or a sibling or someone in school. And you get some people that interpret that understandably in a really traumatic way. And then you get some people that don't, and actually there's a lot of evidence to suggest that people do overcome trauma without intervention. So I honestly don't know what tips the balance. There are some like predisposing factors that we think about. So if there's any parental mental health, we think about right from the day of conception, what were the circumstances around that child? If you've got a parent, for example, that's in a domestic violence relationship, when they're pregnant, they're fearful and scared most of the times. That cortisol is running around the body. That child's going to become predisposed to anxiety and feeling hypervigilant before they've even been born. So you have to really think back through the developmental history about what changes might have happened to the brain as they're growing before they're even born. And then if you start layering on other adverse childhood experiences on top of that, parental separation, mental health difficulties around them, substance misuse, maybe some time in care, or even just moving house can be traumatic for some people, and then others it's not. So I think it's an absolute mixed bag of factors that I think we're all capable of having. We all have that threshold of being tipped over the edge. No one is superhuman. No one is immune to not becoming unwell with their mental health. And when I get teenagers in front of me that really chronically depressed and they can't see any way out of life and they think that this is them forever, they can give themselves such a hard time for even getting there in the first place. And I sort of try and show it to them on a spectrum. So if someone was physically unwell with a cough or a cold, you would be on the unwell side of the spectrum, not completely unwell, but you'd kind of tip the balance of being physically unwell. Throw in like a broken arm or restless night's sleep or a chest infection, so it develops into more. You kind of tip the balance into more physical health problems. So what would you do about that? You'd have to look after yourself. You'd take medication. You'd get a better sleep hygiene. You'd make sure you get a routine. You'd shower. You'd change your diet. You do these things to try and tip the balance back into a healthy physical state. So why would our mental health be any different to that? We all have times where we're sort of mentally well, and then other days we might be sort of on the other side of it and are feeling unwell. But what the difference is between that and a chronic diagnosable mental health disorder is someone who just cannot bring themselves back into the well side of the spectrum. So they're really struggling to get themselves on that other side. And that's when you need more professional support to try and get you back where you should be. But then I even say to the young people, it changes by the day. I'm well today. I've been to the gym, I've had a good routine, I've just come back from Scotland. If you'd have asked me that question before I went away, I'd been like, not sleeping, I feel really run down, I feel stressed. My rating of where I would be on that scale will be totally different. The difference is I can bounce back and my mood will be different the day after.
I guess it's hard for young people, right? Because they've got less evidence to prove to themselves they will bounce back because they've been here less years, right? Like with us, it's okay. There's been this time back in 2002, or whatever. We've built up this binder of evidence of, well, you've just proved to yourself your competency, so you're going to be okay. This light at the end of the tunnel, and you can get through it. If somebody's 12, 13, 18, 10, what have you been through? Like, if it's all been trauma, like, you've not seen that light at the end of the tunnel. So it's difficult to prove to yourself then, and I can empathize with them, hearing a grown person saying it's going to be okay, we got to hold on. It's like, yeah, well, they don't know that. They've never felt it, and it's kind of just believing this stranger's words, right?
Yeah, that's why I think it's it's the humanity side that really gets through to these young people. Being like, I get it. You know, I work with people like you all the time, but actually I'm human as well. Like I have bad days. I have had bad times in my life. Um, and sometimes I'll share snippets of that. Not everyone feels comfortable doing that, which is surprising. You get a lot of therapists that are quite boundaried around sharing their personal life and their personal experiences. I kind of judge the mood because obviously it's not about me, but I do feel a lot more comfortable saying, do you know what, I do know friends that have felt like this, or I have felt like this myself, or do you know what helps me when I'm feeling this way? So self-disclosure, I think, can sometimes really help, especially those young people who don't have those references that you talked about, those support, what we call protective factors. So friendships that are supportive, or family that are supportive, or pets even that are, you know, worth living for. Sometimes you end up being that protective factor for that young person. If someone cares that I didn't wake, you know, if I don't wake up tomorrow, Zoe's waiting for me on a Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And if I'm not there, she'll know that I'm not okay. And it's about that consistency and that reliability. A lot of young people don't always have that. You know, they don't have that one person sometimes in their life that is depending on them and will actually care if they got out of bed that morning, or if they open the curtains, or if they change their underwear. It can be something so small, but I celebrate every achievement.
Is it getting worse on a whole?
I think, look, I'm in Manchester. We've had a lot of adversity over the last couple of years. I'm still working with patients from the Manchester Arena bombing. So we've still got young people that attended the concert that are just showing some post-traumatic symptoms of that event, or weren't actually aware that they were suffering from trauma. So we've got that end of the flooding of the system that's still going on, that people have kind of, it might crop up every so often, like in March when the anniversary comes around. There's sort of an influx of referrals, but then it's forgotten about for the rest of the year. And then we've got, understandably, the pandemic. You know, we've got a generation coming through that are petrified of cross-contamination. They've been told to wash your hands to save lives. The bus stop outside my house had a big poster on it saying how many people had died in the last month, and make sure you wash your hands or you'll save lives. And we just have massively underestimated the drip feeding of that culture. I don't know if you remember, but at school there was always that rumor of, oh, the world's going to end on like the 15th of December 2020, whatever. And you'd be,
2012 or something, wasn't it?
There'd always be something, wouldn't there? There'd be some random end of the world rumor that went round. And even though you're in year 11, you'd genuinely, shit, like,
Yeah, all
is this
right.
it? It'd
Fair
be
enough.
like, yeah, there'd just be this like anxiety of, you know, global warming and that's it, the world's going to end and it's going to explode and there's going to be a meteor. You know, there'd be some random myth that goes around school. This was a real threat. This was something that you saw on the news every single night with the death toll going up. Not only that, but we had head teachers passing away, we had school nurses passing away, we've got parents of young people dying suddenly, and some young people are absolutely isolated from those protective factors, like the friends, like the grandparents, like the people that we needed to know that these people were safe, have been completely stripped away from that support network. What we're seeing now, and I hate this term, but you've got lockdown babies. You know, it was a term that was coined during lockdown, but it's becoming a thing because if you think about the development of a child, they've now grown up in a society where you cover your face with a mask. From a social perspective, it's become more comfortable for people to, you know, take pictures with their hands over the mouth, or, you know, prefer to cover half of their face because they're feeling quite self-conscious. Like some people still wear masks. It's taken me a long time to get a lot of patients to drop that. Not just from the contamination sort of thing, but the physical vulnerability and the exposure of seeing someone's face. we don't have sort of the same developmental milestones that are met from a socializing point of view, because you've got a generation of young people that haven't been to, you know, after school clubs, haven't been to mother and baby groups, they haven't been to nursery, they haven't been to childminders. They've been absolutely isolated from all those abilities to socialize and develop those interpersonal skills, that they've gone online and they've become introverted. And the best way, or the only way that they know how to have a conversation, is sort of in front of a screen or sort of trapped within the online world. So we've definitely seen a massive change in culture from a communication perspective, and how having an hour away from your phone for some young people in my sessions is really hard. Like, I have to physically say now, can you put your phone away? Because they're not comfortable not having it there. It's a safety behaviour. It's something it's an easy way to avoid eye contact. It's an easy way to avoid communication. It's a way of feeling more comfortable by having your head down and sort of having your hair over your face to cover your features. It's presented a totally different spectrum of difficulties that we still aren't really prepared for. We've been massively flooded. We used to having like 1 or 2 people on the ward a week, if that, which is sort of young people that have tried to take their own life or have seriously hurt themselves. We're getting like 7 a day. It's actually unprecedented. It's just insane. I mean, only a few weeks ago that we had like referrals of 40 children in 1 week. We'd be used to like 10, 15, but it's just fourfold. It's just gone insane. And I don't know whether that's because we're a lot more aware of mental health, and there's been a lot of campaigns around being aware of mental health and to go and get help. What's happened is it's bottlenecked. We might be more aware of how unwell we are, but that doesn't mean that there's someone there to catch you and to help you pull you out of that. So I think it's multifaceted in what I think might have contributed to this massive flood of it seemingly getting worse. Or is it that we're just getting better at asking for help? I don't know.
How do we tackle it, mate?
Oh, you're a bit jerky then, you cut out a bit.
That's all right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How do we tackle it, mate?
How do you tackle it?
Let's attack that question from the angle of somebody not in your field, like just a Joe Blogs on the street. Like, how do we as social creatures act in a certain way, be open-minded in another, and just be a little bit fucking caring for one another?
I don't know. I guess from someone who isn't there in their field, it's surprisingly not common sense to ask people, are you all right? Are you okay? And asking twice. There's a lot of campaigns around asking twice. Because if you ask once, are you okay? Most people say, yeah, fine, you. But then if you ask, but are you okay? You would generally get the real response after the second time of asking. So I guess it's more around educating people on the communication tools and not feeling like you have to be an expert in helping other people, because there's a real culture of being aware of mental health and then pinging off a referral to a specialist service, but I could see that young person for 1 hour a week, and I say to them, I'm like your Slimming World coach, I'm like your fitness coach. You come and see me for an hour of the week, I will make you accountable for the things that you said that you would do and that you haven't done. But then for the rest of your week, you are out in the world, and it's then that you make the most progress. And I'll check in with you a week after. Seeing me for 1 hour a week is not going to change your life. I'm not going to make you better, but the hard work that you put in between, you will. So that sometimes I'll get young people that come for the hour, they'll tick the box, I've been to therapy, and then they'll do nothing in between. So they'll stay in bed all day, the curtains are closed, they've not been dressed, they've not really connected with anybody. And then they'll sort of give me the helpless, hopeless narrative of things aren't getting better, it's not working, you're not helping me. And I say, I signed up for the gym this week because I really want to lose weight. And they're like, right. So I bought the shoes, got a new water bottle, got a new kit, but I'm just not losing weight. And they're laughing at me and they're like, well, of course you're not going to lose weight. I'm like, well, why? Because I've got all the gear, like I've bought everything. I've got the subscription that I pay every month. Why am I not losing weight? And they're like, well, you're not going, you're not doing anything to work on it. And then you see the penny drop. And I use a lot of analogies with my young people to try and reflect it back in a different way and try and widen the lens. Like you said, they don't always have that reference or that longitudinal image of changing the trajectory for themselves. They're so narrow-minded in their future vision. It's hard for them to even conceptualize what life is like beyond tomorrow. So sometimes you've got to try and make it more relatable. I think that's probably my strength, because I work with a lot of young people with neurodiversity, like autism, ADHD, that think in a different way. So them coming to therapy and me saying, just stop doing your rituals. Say if they've got OCD, just stop lining your shoes up before you leave the house, because it's making you late for school. And if you're late for school, you're not going to get your GCSEs, you're going to get in trouble all the time. And like, it means nothing to me. Why would I do that? If I come in preaching to young people about what they should do to live a better life, they'll rebel and push back. Who are you to tell me that? So I get the hook, is what I call it. I find out what they're interested in, a bit like what you did with me before we started talking about the podcast. Understand someone, get to know them, find the hook. If I see something, if I'm online and I see something in the background, maybe like a Friends poster or a Harry Potter book or anything,
a Foo Fighters poster.
Foo Fighters, that's why that is there, because it's a good conversational point for people. Oh, you like music, you like bands. I get the hook and I become human before therapy, and we just talk absolute crap about things that they're interested in. And then what I'll do is I'll build therapy onto their interest. So for one young person that I had with autism, their special interest, and they absolutely love Marvel movies. Most people do, but they had a really intense interest in it. And they had anxiety. They'd suffer from panic attacks whenever they'd leave the house. I don't know if you know much about Iron Man, but I became an absolute geek of Iron Man 2 to try and get these references for this person with autism. And it's a perfect analogy, because Iron Man tries to be prepared for every situation. So he builds his armor and he builds his suit to face a lot. He's in a battle with someone who can fight fire, so he makes it fireproof. But then the next day he faces an enemy that he wasn't expecting, and he's like, oh no, there's a chink in my armor, I need to rebuild it, I need to remodel it. And when he's not without his suit of armor, he has panic attacks. If you see in the second movie, he's in a cafe and he has a flashback about one of the battles he was in that he didn't quite win, and he ends up getting panic symptoms. So his brain is stuck on the times that he failed, and that is reinforcing the belief that he's not good enough and he can't cope, and he's underestimating his ability to cope. So what does he have to do? So I kind of drew out all this anxiety map around this young person's suit of armor. She was Iron Man. What kind of things would make up their suit of armor? So they carry the phone around, they put the head down and avoid eye contact, they don't order the food in the canteen, they avoid busy places by going to the toilets. There'll be all these safety behaviours that have become their suit of armour to protect themselves from the world. But when they come across something that they're not prepared for, it's pointless and they panic anyway, but it's just reinforcing that they can't cope. So the only way that we can face the world is we have to drop that suit of armour. We have to drop those safety behaviours. We need to go into that canteen, we need to order ourselves some food, and we need to sit amongst people. And that takes time, no one's expecting them to drop it all straight away. But just by having that hook in their interest, they're like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'll do that. So I think you've just got to be a lot more creative working with young people and make it fit what they're interested in, rather than they're so switched on. If they know that you're trying to preach to them, or if you're being disingenuine, sniff it out, and they won't work with you.
It's funny, like we talk about and think young people being so different to adults, right? They're exactly the same. You know,
So
bringing it down to a very, very minute level, just bringing people within four walls of a gym, right? It's like, yeah, it's the same. I tell everybody all the time, if you can coach people with neurodivergence or kids, you can coach everybody, because you realize the way you coach is the same. You just add a bit more swearing in, you know, and if you joke around with adults, you know, comedy holds attention, right? And then you're able to help them a little bit more. And I think that asking twice point is phenomenal. You know, people come in all the time. How are you doing? You all right? Yeah. Sound. Oh, how you doing? Yeah, yeah, I'm sound. Right. You're gonna lie to me again, or am I gonna have to ask you a third time? You know, well, you got to be that type of guy or gal just to listen. We're not gonna do this today. Like, is it genuinely a coach? I just wanna be alone day and let's just crack on. Cool, because we all get those days. No problem. Let's find our win for today and then move forward, right? But we're not gonna do that every day, you know. And sometimes it takes a stranger, right? Maybe you're in Costa and you're ordering a coffee. How you doing, mate? Yeah, yeah, I'm fine. Like, fucking hell. No, you're not. Like, something else is going on. And what I've learned from leaving home, if I'm honest with you, is there's a hell of a lot of cultures out there that find it rude if we turn around and be like, are you, no, seriously, are you really all right? You know, and I think that's a prejudice on ourselves as individuals that we need to tackle, right? Like, yeah, okay, it might be part of your culture. It might be the stiff upper lip of being British or whatever, right? Insert whatever culture you want. It might seem rude, but what would you prefer? Allow somebody to fall down that rabbit hole so far that they can't see the ways up, or you seem like a little bit of rude, just being like, right, no, Zoe, less of this bullshit, mate. Right, are you actually all right? You know, I'm cruising at a 5 out of 10 today. I was like, oh, well, five's better than four, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right is better than shit. Let's just crack on, you know. And if you need me, you know where I am. Like, it's even stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, someone out there actually does care. You know, someone out there is actually a human rather than just like statistics or digits on a screen, right? Because, I mean, that point of interacting with screens all the time, mate, it's weird. It's so weird. People are so socially awkward. They just don't know how to interact with other people around them. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, there are other people around. Oh, you're like, okay, no problem. I guess we're gonna have to start here and asking, man, asking twice.
Ask twice, and it gives that opportunity for people to reflect. Because how many times do you actually think, how am I feeling?
Yeah,
But if someone asks you and truly cares about the answer, you've got to quantify it. You've got to think, how actually am I? And if someone says, if you think, actually, I'm probably about a 3, a 3 out of 10,
yeah,
you might have gone your whole day not even realizing that. And you've had a shit day and bus is late and someone's pissed you off at work and you've skipped your dinner. You'll start thinking it's all these things that are going wrong in your life. But actually, if you just have that minute to think, how actually am I? Then you think, right, well, how could I make it a 4 out of 10?
mm,
And that's all therapy is. It's a mirror. It's a mirror to reflect back on what you already know. No one tells you anything different. And I think that's what puts people off asking people how they are, is they're scared of the response and then the responsibility of what to do with that information. But it's so underestimated of just listening and validating and caring. You don't have to be like, oh, come out for a drink with me, or I'll ring the crisis line for you, I'll tell your mum. It doesn't have to be problem solving. People think that they have to do something or they have to commit. something to that person. But the fact that you asked and you cared about the response and allowed that person to just think, how actually am I? You've allowed them to recognize it and then go and draw on their own resources, what they know to get themselves out of it.
Sometimes that's enough, right? Just that slight gesture of, oh shit, somebody cares. You know, something like, you know, text me if you need anything. You know, how's your family? Love you guys. Like, how many times you tell your mates you love them, especially blokes, right? Like, blokes get weirded out. You're like, what are you talking about? You're like, what are you talking about? Like, are they mates or not? Like, you know, like that whole let me know if you need out. Boom, I'm out. Get home safe. Text me when you're home. Those little things.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a little reminder to people, which might be their only win that day. Because they had a shit day, bus was light and all that, you know.
And remember that information, you know, ask if they're okay, hear the response back. And then the next time you see him, is your mum all right? She
Yeah, is
went
your mum
well
all
last
right? Yeah.
spoke to you. You know, how's your dog? You know, how's that arm that was playing? Do you know, I just remember little snippets, and then it just gives people enough validation to be like, you listen to me and you actually care about what I said.
Consistency factor, right? That's the, in my opinion, it's the biggest thing of that human. Everyone can do it for a day, right? I'd say tell people all the time, my goal is to be good in a week, great in 6 months, but unbeatable in a year. And that's not because I've got better in a year. Yeah, okay, that's the goal. I want to get better at my fucking craft, and it's an art form, right? But I know you. I should know you inside and out within 12 months. I see you 6 times a week, 5 times a week. See you in a cumulative of 10 hours a week. You know, yeah, I should know you inside and bloody out. I should know what your first dog's name was, you know, and then that's when you really unpack those layers, right? Really understand who people are, and vice versa. They need to understand who we are too.
I think it's something that I have realised that I've gone through so many PTs and I couldn't work out why I didn't gel with some and I could gel with others. And like Amanda's a perfect example, is you're not just a PT. And I just massively underestimated that. You know, you're not just a physical coach. They're the people that see you at your worst. When you feel you normally go to the gym when you just need a blowout, you've had a hard day, or, it's your go-to, it's your church, it's where you go to just be yourself. So you're raw, that emotion's so raw in that moment sometimes. And it's having that PT that's like, right, how have you been getting on? And going straight into, I've been to the gym 3 times this week and I've not ate great, And then as you're working out, just asking you those little things about yourself, it's so therapeutic. And some PTs, it doesn't come second nature to them like that. I think some can be quite robotic and do kind of stick to the comfort zone of the physical therapy side of it, and quite prescriptive. And then you get the human element, and it's usually the people that have been through some shit.